So how would you vote tomorrow if there was a referendum?
I'd vote to stay in the single market. I'm in favour of the single market. I want us to be able to trade freely with our European friends and partners.
Would you like to be Prime Minister?
I think it's a very tough job being Prime Minister. Very tough job. I mean, obviously, if the ball came loose from the back of a scrum, which it won't,
Might.
or of course it'd be a great thing to have a crack at, but it's not going to happen.
The human bulldozer who snatched the ball from the back of the Tory scrum is a man of many contradictions. A classical scholar turned popular entertainer, a self-proclaimed liberal one-nation Tory, hand in glove with the hardline Brexiteers.
He knows that life is a competition and he always wants to be top. Whenever anyone asked him what he wanted to be, he would answer world king.
Well, I certainly think that as a general tactic in life, if that's what you're driving at, it is often useful to give the slight impression that you are deliberately pretending not to know what is going on. Because the reality may be that you don't know what is going on, but people won't be able to tell the difference.
After Oxford, Johnson became a trainee journalist at The Times, where he was sacked for making up a quote. But he got a job at the Daily Telegraph.
That was my impression. But that's 18 months away and anything can happen.
He became its Brussels correspondent and immediately set about ridiculing the European Commission. From Euro manure to one-size-fits-all condoms, little escaped Johnson's eye. Though his fellow Brussels reporters felt his stories were hyped up beyond recognition, it made Boris Johnson's name. But the twice-married Johnson was sacked from the front bench for lying to the party leader about an adulterous affair with one of his staff. It was one of a string of love affairs that have raised what's called the character question about his fitness for the job of Prime Minister.
He has got great qualities, of that there is no doubt. They're just not the qualities that I want to see personally as Prime Minister of this country. These are not the times when we need someone who is a bit of a chancer. You know, and Boris is a chancer. He is a chancer.
When David Cameron called the Brexit referendum, he desperately wanted Boris Johnson on his side in the campaign. But Johnson was now calculating whether to reverse the stance he'd taken 3 years earlier.
So how would you vote tomorrow if there was a referendum?
I'd vote to stay in the single market. I'm in favour of the single market. I want us to be able to trade freely with our European friends and partners.
With politics plunged into convulsive and unpredictable turmoil, the new Prime Minister, Theresa May, gave Boris Johnson one of the great offices of state as Foreign Secretary, much to his astonishment. His most contentious moment as Foreign Secretary came when he gave evidence to MPs about the fate of Nazanin Zahawi Ratcliffe. The Anglo-Iranian woman had been jailed by the Tehran regime for being an alleged spy.
When you look at what Nazanin Zahawi Ratcliffe was doing, it's just, you know, she was simply teaching people journalism, as I understand it.
In fact, she'd gone to Iran on holiday, and Johnson had misremembered his briefing, and the Iranians used his words against Mrs. Zahawi Ratcliffe.
I think he had a chance to prove to the world and to himself, to his friends and supporters, that he would be an outstanding, he could do a really big job at a very difficult time, which it was, and in my view, he failed. So that, again, also gives me cause for anxiety and worry.
Boris Johnson recently wrote a biography of Churchill, in which he pointedly noted that Churchill was a journalist turned politician with many human flaws, who was written off, but called in to save his country in its darkest hour. Alexander Boris de Pfeffel Johnson is now about to become Britain's 55th Prime Minister and the 20th Old Etonian, with many people questioning his ability to handle the most daunting and difficult of jobs in the most forbidding political environment since the Second World War.
My biggest single worry perhaps about Boris Johnson is that he seems to me to be a politician who has inhaled his own legend before he's created it. He's shown levels of personal and political narcissism which do worry me. And it's as if he believes in his own myth. My own feeling veers towards the anxiety end of the spectrum. I hope I'm wrong, but it certainly does veer towards the anxiety end of the spectrum, because you cannot busk being Prime Minister.
I texted him last weekend, and I said to him, when Churchill became Prime Minister, on the day he became Prime Minister, he went back to his flat where he met my grandmother and his children, and they drank a bottle of champagne, and he proposed a toast of here's to not buggering it up. And I said to Boris, I can't possibly vote for you. I can't vote for you. But I pray for all our sakes you don't bugger it up. And that is my hope for Boris.
And your fear?
My fear is that he could bugger it up.
So how would you vote tomorrow if there was a referendum?
I'd vote to stay in the single market. I'm in favour of the single market. I want us to be able to trade freely with our European friends and partners. I'd vote to stay in the single market. I'm in favour of the single market. I want us to be able to trade freely with our European friends and partners. I'd vote to stay in the single market. I'm in favour of the single market. I want us to be able to trade freely with our European friends and partners. I'd vote to stay in the single market. I'm in favour of the single market. I want us to be able to trade freely with our European friends and partners. I'd vote to stay in the single market. I'm in favour of the single market. I want us to be able to trade freely with our European friends.